Welcome to the Rooted Goddess podcast with your host, Leslie Sprague, where we talk all things wellness, woo-woo, life, and everything in between. As a small-town mom of two amazing kiddos, I understand the challenges of what it's like to stay grounded and go after your dreams. My goal for this podcast is to inspire you to root down so you can grow stronger, rise up, and let your light shine bright so you can be the goddess you are truly meant to be. Think of this as your one-stop shop. It's happy hour with a gal pal while getting truthful and heartfelt about taking the steps forward to living your best life. Welcome to the Rooted Goddess podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Sprague. Today, I want to talk to you about Savasana. For those of you who are experienced in yoga, you will know that Savasana is the pose at the very end of the class. And we are laying on our backs, flat on the ground, and just letting ourselves go. We get quiet, we relax, we rest, and this is one of the most important poses. And I think a lot of people may skip Savasana because when they quiet and rest, they might get a little nervous maybe nervous isn't the right word. Uncomfortable, possibly. When we take time to be quiet and rest, that's when the magic happens. So if you are a busy, go type of person, Savasana might be uncomfortable for you. And I was recently reading a couple of articles published by, I don't know if articles, I think it's actually blog posts, that's probably the right word, on the Devatri School of Yoga website about Savasana. And this is the school of yoga that I chose and took, and it's really quite brilliant. In a little bit more modern society, or you might notice that Savasana is actually can be quite short, and I personally try not to do this as much as I can. Savasana is one of my most favorite poses. So it is, it can be a bit difficult at first. But once you get into the groove and begin to trust and let yourself go, it is one of my favorite poses. And I think a lot of my students as well, they actually love Savasana. So, so in keeping with the theme of quieting our monkey mind, Savasana helps to shut us down a little bit. We are always constantly going, and I think I've said this a few times in the episodes of my podcast, but the quiet and the stillness is what we need to practice more than ever. So Savasana, and this was from this article, Savasana is full of benefits. It relaxes the body. It can relieve mild depression, lowers blood pressure, can calm the nervous system, aid in digestion, and strengthen our immune system. And it's also an opportunity to strengthen our awareness to a higher consciousness, connecting us to something bigger than ourselves. Yeah, and there is, and this was actually new to me. I wasn't really aware of this part of it. There's actually 3 stages to Shavasana. So, stage 1 is allowing the body to find relaxation. And that can be tricky for some of us. You got to make sure your legs are in the right spot. And when we're in a pose like Shavasana or restorative type poses within yoga, our body can cool down because we're not moving as much. So maybe it's putting some blankets on or an eye pillow or all of the above. Just trying to find that perfect position to allow your body to find that relaxation can be kind of tricky. So it's about allowing your body to relax. And this is the place where your breath and heart rate slow down and the parasympathetic nervous system becomes a little more dominant. So stage 2 is when Shavasana actually begins. So the body begins to feel heavy and connected to the earth and begin to withdraw from the external world. So this is something that I'll often coach my students into Shavasana. And this is one thing that I talk about is like, feel your body getting heavier and melting into the earth and things like that, so that it helps them to melt into their pose a little bit more. And then stage 3 is the final stage, is where and this probably is the trickiest part of it, is when we actually let the mind go. And that's where we fully allow ourselves to relax and rest and just be. So, and the silence is where our magic happens. It's where we might get a thought that answers our prayers, or a way that we can answer our prayers. It's just letting ourselves be. I keep saying that, but it is so important. And a lot of people have difficulty with silence. To be quiet and just rest. It's one of the hardest things. So where I'm going with this talk about Shavasana and educating you on Shavasana is when you are in a yoga class, or not necessarily meditating, because meditating can be done more upright. When you're in a yoga class or you're doing one of my yoga videos at home, don't skip Shavasana. Shavasana is one of the most vital pieces of yoga. And if we don't let ourselves relax, we're not fully allowing ourselves to integrate and shift what we have done in the class. Because when you're in a yoga class and you're moving through patterns, you're moving through emotions and mental states, the movement is part of healing, but Shavasana is that final piece. So if you are interested in reading more about Shavasana, I highly recommend Googling Shavasana and Devatri, and those two articles should come up for sure. But they're really quite brilliant because it I think it will encourage you to look at Shavasana in a different way. The stillness and the quiet are essential. And in today's society, we don't get enough of it. I will actually put a link to those articles in the show notes of this episode. So if you're interested, they'll be right there. Thank you so much for listening, and let me give you a virtual hug, big squeeze, as a token of my appreciation. At the very least, I hope you had some fun while listening, and maybe even learned a thing or two. And bonus points if I got a chuckle out of you. If you liked this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could leave me a 5-star review, or if you know someone who could benefit from listening, share it on your Insta stories and tag me at Leslie's Yoga and Wellness. Subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date with new episodes. By doing these things, it helps to get my podcast noticed so that people who need to hear my message are more attracted to it. Please feel free to stop by my website, lesliespragg.com, and grab a copy of my free Mom Self-Care Kit. While you're there, grab a free few yoga classes. Namaste, goddesses. Until next time.